Hi, I'm Adrian Halverstadt, founder of the Criminal Justice Program at Berkeley College. Welcome to the Justice Center at drhalvey. In this playlist, Foundational Principles of a Republic, we are examining various aspects pertaining to a republic form of governance. We're also noting specifically the governance structure that King David initiated for Israel in the Old Testament. In addition, we are drawing down connecting points between King David's governance in the Old Testament with the constitutional republic form of governance that we use here in the United States. In the first video in this playlist, we described King David's republic form of governance and examined the important aspect of impartiality when it comes to having a just and equitable system of governance. In the second video, the focus was on the need for accessibility and/or representation of the people in government, particularly when it comes to a republic form of governance. In the third video, we examined the need for a governmental structure that's restorative in nature, seeking to restore justice completely throughout all of the nation. You know, this is the hallmark of a republic form of governance, restoring justice. In this fourth video, the aspect of republic in focus is caring for the vulnerable. Sacred literature describes King David as one who protected and cared for the vulnerable, demonstrating the deep concern he had for the marginalized and vulnerable members of his kingdom, his society, his nation. This is the very thread that holds the garment of a republic together. All are equal and all have the right, the God-given right, to peace and prosperity. Herein lies the difference between a constitutional republic form of governance that is steeped in the higher law of God and that of a pure democratic governance. In a republic, God sets the standard. In a democracy, the majority makes the decisions and sets the rules. In a republic, every life matters. In a democracy, the vote of the majority is what takes precedence. That is what ultimately matters. And eventually and inevitably, in a democratic-ruled system of governance, the majority will lose patience with the marginalized and move on without them, or they will vote in contempt against citizens who may hold to a different point of view, particularly on ethics and morality. I don't know about you, but I'm thankful that I live in the United States of America, which is a republic, and that my life matters and my voice matters, and the rule of our nation will not run over my values and my ethics. They will honor them. Thanks be to God. So under King David's rule, provisions were made to support and protect these individuals, those who are marginalized and hurting. Under King David's rule, they were ensured of not being neglected, and it was communicated that every life mattered under King David's governance. Under his leadership, Israel amassed considerable amount of wealth through military conquest and acquiring various territories. But David used this amassed amount of wealth to meet people's needs and to strengthen the kingdom as a whole. He assured further development and prosperity for his people, according to 1 Chronicles 29. David made good use of the abundance that his nation had, and he targeted those who were hurting and vulnerable to see to it that the wealth of the nation went to care for those people. David used the wealth of the nation to provide protection of widows and orphans. He practiced fiscal responsibility. In David's republic, wealth was managed purposefully and intentionally based upon the spirit and the principles of their Constitution or the Torah. You know, that's how a republic governed by the people and for the people handles their money. David recognized the vulnerability of widows and orphans in his society and commanded his people and built into the framework of his governance for people to be provided for. In Psalm 68, verse 5, David praises God as the defender of widows and the father of the fatherless. He understood the importance of caring for those who had lost their primary provider and sought to ensure their well-being. Truly, David was a man after God's own heart, as the Bible so clearly states. It is plain to see that King David had a heart for the poor and those who are vulnerable. In the book of Psalms, he often expressed concerns for the oppressed and needy, calling upon God to deliver them from their troubles. One particular psalm, Psalm 72, comes to my mind, and that's where David prays for a righteous ruler who would defend the cause of the poor and save the needy from those who would exploit them. You can just hear the heart of David and his passion for all lives to be valued and people cared for in those words. In addition, the Bible describes King David giving protection to foreigners. He extended protection and hospitality to foreigners who sought refuge in his kingdom. One example of this comes from 2 Samuel 10. When a Moabite king died, David sent messengers to express his condolences to the family and offered protection to the deceased sons, ensuring their safety and treating them with kindness. We're not talking about a nation without borders here. My goodness, even God has borders around his kingdom. Just read John chapter 10. It says that God has a wall, and in his wall there's a gate, and only those who can enter in must go through the gate. God has due process for even coming into his kingdom. Every nation should have due process as well. There is only one way into God's kingdom, and that is through the door, John 10 says, and Jesus Christ is the door. He is the way, the truth, and the life to God's provision and his abundance. Giving protection to foreigners speaks of due process and formal proceedings. That's what David extended to the Moabite family in 2 Samuel 10. He extended a formal invitation. He extended a process for them. They weren't just able to jump the wall and come on in. Rather, they had to follow due process. And that's what God expects from us, not only as we enter into his kingdom, but as we seek to honor the republic that he has set up for us. May God bless the republic known as the United States of America. May he empower us with vision to care for the vulnerable and the hurting. May he raise up leaders in our nation who will honor the precepts and principles of higher law, the Word of God. And may we be distinguished among other nations because of the Constitution that we hold to and the way that we value lives. May we take great pride in the fact that we are a republic and that all lives matter.